Please welcome Garrett Reismann.
Thank you. That is all the Armenian I know. So the rest is English, I'm sorry. My name is Garrett, and I was on the International Space Station for 95 days during my first mission. And, well, okay. I appreciate that, but actually, since it's just us Starmus people here, right? I'm going to tell you the truth, which is that being there for 95 days on the International Space Station was quite disappointing.
Ooh.
Because if you stay for 100 days, you get a patch. This is true. And I'm on day 95, and the Space Shuttle Discovery came up and said, Garrett, it's time to go home. And I said, man, do we really have to? I just need 5 more days, you know? Can't we just go around a few more times? You think anybody's really going to notice? And the commander said, no, we have to go home. So I went home and I didn't get my patch. Thank you. Thank you. But wait, that's not all. So then they said, NASA said, Garrett, we have another mission for you. This one's going to be on the Space Shuttle Atlantis. You're going to go back to the space station, and it's going to be about 2 weeks. So listen, I'm pretty good at math, okay? So, okay, 95 plus 14, carry the 1. It's more than 100, right? It's more than 100. I'll get my patch. I said, okay, I'll go. So I went, had another mission, it was great. Come back, I'm all excited. I go to the welcome home ceremony, I got my hand out like this, ready to get my patch. And NASA said, no. Gotta be in a row. So I still didn't get my patch. If I did, it would go right here. You see this big empty spot right here on my uniform right there? This big empty hole over my heart? That's where it would go. It's all right, I'm not like bitter about it or anything. I'll get over it. So what I want to do is show you some, to get started, a short film that has some of the highlights of those 95 days. You guys want to see that?
Whoa!
Yeah? Okay, all right, here we go. But you also see some things that are pretty scary. One of the things that I noticed up there there we go. When you look at the horizon of the Earth, and you see that thin blue line that separates the bright lit Earth from the black void of space, you know that's our atmosphere. And when you see that, it's pretty terrifying because it looks so incredibly fragile. It looks like a gust of wind could come and just strip it all away. I mean, that black stuff is vacuum, for crying out loud. And I understand the physics of why it sticks around, but when you see it with your own eyes, it's frankly miraculous that it sticks around. And that's all the air that we have to breathe. Look how thin that line is. Then I thought something about a week after I noticed this. I was looking out the window and I was looking down at what you see most of the time, which is the ocean. And I thought, well, how deep is that? You know, how thick is that? And so did they tell you there's going to be a test? No? There's a test. Here it is. Show of hands, which is thicker, the atmosphere or the ocean? So how many people think that the atmosphere is thicker, from sea level to the top of the atmosphere is thicker than the depth of the ocean? Okay. How many people think it's the ocean, that from the sea level to the bottom of the ocean is thicker? That's a pretty even split. That's better than most. The answer is the atmosphere, and if you voted for the ocean, don't feel bad. This was an exercise in psychology. I completely set you up. I was just going on and on and on about how thin that atmosphere was, and so I had you ready to vote for the ocean, so don't feel bad. But the truth is, the atmosphere is kind of a trick question because you don't know exactly where it is, but we arbitrarily draw a line at 100 kilometers, and we say that's the top of the atmosphere. 100 kilometers. Now the ocean, the deepest part of the ocean, not the average depth, but the deepest part, the Challenger Deep, is about 11 kilometers. So now look again at that thin blue line of our atmosphere, and think for a moment that that is about 10 times as thick as the deepest part of the ocean. And now consider the Earth. Yes, the Earth is a huge planet. When you look out the window of the space shuttle, it fills up the entire window. It's enormous. But what it is basically a big rock with an incredibly precious surface coating. Because everything that we think of as our home, like all the people you know, all of your friends, your family, all the air you have to breathe, all the food you have to eat, all the water you have to drink, all that is somewhere between the bottom of the ocean and the top of the atmosphere. And the ratio of that important precious coating, surface coating, to the size of the planet is roughly the same as the skin on an apple or the shell on an egg. So if you think about the Earth that way, those skies, those oceans, they don't seem vast and limitless. They seem very finite, and you get a very intuitive feel of what the science is telling us, which is that we are perfectly capable, as human beings, of messing it up. And we have been doing that, as you know, for centuries. So when you see that, it is scary, and it does make you come back and try to tell people, hey, we need to take better care of this planet because that atmosphere and that ocean, that is our life support system on our spaceship Earth. And as an astronaut, if you ignore and don't take care of your life support system, bad things happen, all right? So we need to do better. Let's take good care of our planet. It's the only place in the solar system with pizza. Thank you. People also ask me, what's the coolest thing you get to do as an astronaut? And it has to be doing a spacewalk. There's nothing that compares to doing a spacewalk for coolness. But here's the thing, not every astronaut gets to do a spacewalk. You have to get some of the highest grades when you do the training for spacewalking in order to be selected to go and do it. When I first got to be an astronaut and I saw a presentation about spacewalking, I was super inspired. I was like, wow, that looks so cool. I would love to do that. And I went up to this other astronaut, a more senior astronaut, who was also quite a bit taller than I am. So I was literally looking up at this fellow. And I said, hey, spacewalking. Looks fun. Now, I've been doing some scuba diving, some rock climbing. Maybe some of those skills will be transferred make me a good candidate to do a spacewalk. And this big, tall astronaut looked down at me. You know what he did? He laughed in my face. He said, "What are you? 4 foot what?" He says, "You're too short. You're too small. You'll never do a spacewalk. Look at that suit, that helmet, that backpack, that's one size fits all. You're gonna get in that suit, get swallowed up in there, you're not gonna be able to do anything. It's impossible." So I thought two things at this moment, okay? The first thought I had was, I thought astronauts are supposed to be polite. This guy was being mean. And then the second thought I had was, I'm not gonna let this guy tell me what I can or cannot do, because this is important to me. I am inspired, but being inspired, inspiration is not enough. What you need is inspiration plus the determination to make whatever dream you have come true. And I was determined. So I went down to do my training the very first time. We have this big pool in Houston. It's 200 feet long, 100 feet wide, 40 feet deep. We can fit most of the space station inside this pool. And you get in that big white suit, they pick you up with a crane and they drop you in the water and you float around, and it's kind of like you're up in space. And I can tell, in the first 5 minutes of this first training exercise, that big, tall astronaut that laughed in my face was right. I was struggling. I was not doing well. I was doing very poorly. And the grade I got, because everything you do as an astronaut gets graded, the grade I got in that first exercise was needs improvement, which is the polite NASA way of saying, you failed. So this was not going well. But I was still determined. I was not ready to give up. But I knew I needed help. So I went to talk to the people that make the suit. And they said, yeah, maybe we could change the length of the arms, we could use different sizing rings, we can adjust the gloves, we can make it fit you as best we can. And that helped. And then I talked to my training team, and they said, yes, well, maybe we can use different body positions. Instead of approaching the work site like this, we can approach it like this, get more reach, we can use different tools, different foot restraint settings. We worked on it. And over time, I got better and better. And eventually, I got those high grades. And over the course of my career, I ended up doing 3 spacewalks. Thank you.
Woo!
That's actually me in that picture. That's me right there. And you know that big, tall astronaut that laughed in my face? Do you know how many spacewalks he got to do? Yeah, that's right, 0. I know. I'm taking a great deal of pleasure and satisfaction. I have another astronaut's misfortune, which is not cool. But that guy was like really mean to me, all right? So, oh well. So anyway, yeah, we were installing this antenna on the top of the space station, this huge antenna. And if my crewmates were here right now, they would say, actually, it's not that big of an antenna, it's just little astronaut. But I'm telling you, that's a really big antenna. And I'm standing on the end of the space station arm, which is about 20 meters long. And at one point, that arm was sticking straight up. And I took this picture. Now this is a selfie, okay? If you look carefully, you can see me holding the camera and taking a picture of my helmet, which is acting like a mirror. And reflected in there, you can see everything I was looking at the whole time. And you can see the entire space station. And in fact, you can see the entire planet Earth in that field of view. And I had a distinct impression and a realization at that moment that every human being, alive or dead, is that way. Which was really strange, but wondrous at the same time. So what I really want to focus on now is what happened after my second mission. Back in 2010, we were ending the shuttle program, and I saw something remarkable happening in the private sector. I saw this private company, SpaceX, send this vehicle, the Falcon 9 rocket, with the Dragon capsule, up into space. It did 2 orbits around the planet, came back, splashed down. They went out with a boat, retrieved it, they became the first private company to send something to space and bring it back. That impressed me. But what impressed me even more was when I found out what the price tag was. And I looked at the number, and there were a few zeros missing at the end. And I said, wow, SpaceX, this company is onto something that could potentially change everything. And so I did something which was very difficult. I quit. Okay? I quit my job at NASA, gave up what was a really amazing job, being an astronaut, my dream. And I met with Elon Musk, and I said, I really think you're onto something here, and I would like to help you out. Can I have a job? And he said, yes. So I started working in 2011 at SpaceX, and I worked at a variety of different positions at SpaceX, all leading up to sending humans on our vehicle to space, which is what we were trying to do from the very beginning. So what's happening now in the private sector is you have a couple of very wealthy individuals who are spending their resources and their time and their effort all to further the cause of human spaceflight. And the thing that they have in common is a tremendous amount of vision. So all of these men have a very clear, distinct message or place that they're going, a mission statement that is very easy to communicate. And this is nothing new, okay? This is the same technique that John F. Kennedy used a long time ago when he said that we're going to send men to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they were easy, but because they are high, right? When he said that to a joint session of Congress, do you know the total amount of time Americans have spent in space? Anybody want to guess? I see a bunch of zeros out there, which is not quite true. The answer is 15 minutes and a few seconds, which was the total duration of Alan Shepard's suborbital flight. That's it. And he said in 10 years, we're going to be walking on the moon. We kind of take it for granted now because we did it. But I assert that that statement is more audacious and bold than anything that Elon or Jeff or Richard has ever said. And that's saying a lot, okay, given where we were at the time. There's a story that might be apocryphal that JFK was once walking through the halls of NASA and he saw somebody cleaning the floor with a broom. And he said to that person, what is your job here at NASA? And he said, well, Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. Because that's the clarity of purpose that we had back then. If you go to SpaceX and you ask the person who is serving you the frozen yogurt, what is their job at SpaceX? They will tell you, I am helping to make human life multiplanetary. It's the same technique. There's a quote from Elon, and what I was telling you before in the story about wanting to do a spacewalk, if something's important to you, for all the young people that are out there today, if something is important to you, if it's your dream, and somebody tells you it's impossible, don't listen to them. Now, if it's not that important to you, you might want to pay attention, because it's probably going to be a lot of work. But if it means a lot to you, just go do it, okay? And this works for Elon, who's the most determined and driven person I've ever met. The surest way to get him to do something is to tell him it's impossible. So what Elon wanted to do was he wanted to get our rockets back. We were launching these rockets, and they would fly off and deliver a satellite into orbit or a capsule. And that's just a tiny little bit at the top, right? The whole rest of that rocket would just fall into the ocean and we'd throw it away. And he said, this is ridiculous. Think about it. If you flew from Yerevan to Frankfurt in an A320, and when you got to Frankfurt, you had to throw it away, that whole airplane, and build a brand new one to come home, very few people will be able to afford to fly in an airliner, right? Just a couple billionaires and some very lucky government employees, right? That would be about it. But that's what we were doing in space with these rockets. So they said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep some fuel in the tank, cancel out your downrange velocity by burning retrograde, come back through the atmosphere, light up the engines again to control the maximum G in pressure when you re-enter in the thermal environment. Then I want you to light up one more time at the very last minute to minimize gravity losses, deploy landing legs, and land on its tail, just like Buck Rogers. And a lot of people told him this is impossible. I thought it was going to be impossible too, because it's such a difficult engineering challenge, and to make it repeatable and cost-effective was going to be really hard. But I was smart enough not to say anything to the boss. I kept my mouth shut. And he just wouldn't take no for an answer, so we tried it. Now here's the other lesson. We look for opportunities to try things and be very innovative and take a lot of risk when the consequences of failure were low. We were throwing these rockets away anyway, so why not try? So we tried. Now, do you think it worked the first time we tried? No. It was something like this. Kaboom! But we found out very quickly why it didn't work, and we fixed that thing. It had to do with the quantity of the hydraulic reservoir. We fixed that. We did it a second time. Do you think it worked a second time? No. It went kaboom again. But then we found the next weakest link very quickly. The third time, did it work? Fourth time? Fifth time? Sixth time? Yeah, we finally got it. Okay? And the thing was that we converged on the proper solution because we weren't afraid to fail. Now, people have said that there are other reasons not to do this, that for political reasons. They said, look, your competitors are going to get videos of your rockets blowing up, and they're going to take it to Capitol Hill and show the politicians and say, you really want to spend billions of dollars on this company? You want to put your astronauts on these rockets that keep blowing up? And Elon said, you know what? They, more than anybody, have to understand the importance of failure. So I'm not worried that Boeing or somebody is going to take videos of our rockets blowing up and show it to these people. I'm going to make a greatest hits video of our rockets blowing up, and I'm going to put it on